Hello everyone, welcome to the 10YP Indicators of Success and Reporting meeting webinar. Can you all hear me? Please feel free to unmute yourself and respond if you can hear me. I can see Dylan says yes, thank you Dylan. We'll start the webinar now. I will just quickly introduce myself. My name is Sophie Clausen. I'm the Monitoring and Reporting Analyst in the 10YP Secretariat. And here with me I have Julia. I think you all know her. She manages the trust funds from the 10YP Secretariat. So today we're going to go through the 10YP Indicators of Success, which is the background for reporting within the 10YP. And therefore also relevant to you as 10YP Trust Fund actors. And then we'll go into the more sort of technical side of how you report your activities as part of the 10YP annual reporting to New York and to high-level meetings and for communication purposes. The 10YP Indicators of Success will go into the principles, and the indicators themselves will talk a little bit about what came out of the pilot reporting of last year, which was the first time we put the indicators of success into practice, and you can see sort of what kind of data will be able to come out from it and how we can use that to locate best practice examples and help communicate your progress and your activities better. So the 10YP Indicators of Success were created to guide and measure in a participatory way the collective impact and key milestones towards the global shift to FCP. So the purpose of this is to assess and improve performance in terms of planning of activities, allocation of funds, but also to report and demonstrate progress, to show accountability at different levels, both to the wider public, but also to to the more high-level political forums in New York and within the UN system. The 10YP Indicators of Success are based on the 10YP structure. It's based on the Rio +20 document, which has the mandate on SCP. It's based on the Sustainable Development Goals. You'll see a little bit later how that fits in, as well as already existing international processes. It's a limited and non-exhaustive set of indicators, so you won't be able to necessarily report everything that you do, but we'll go through exactly what type of activities you can report. There's a whole methodological framework behind it, and that is available to you as well if you're interested in seeing the methodology behind it. The process and the tool is what we'll go through today, which is the online reporting process. Here you can see the indicators of success. So as you can see here, there's 3 different levels. There's an output level, there's an outcome level, and there's an impact level. So for the purpose of your reporting, the main focus is on the output level and the outcome level. The output is the direct output of your projects. The outcomes is more a little longer term influence that your project has. So if your project has influenced changes in practice, for instance, suddenly certain organizations are using eco-labeling, for instance, then this would be relevant to report on. So the indicators here are basically the activities you can report on. So you will be able to report on your SCP project, and we'll go through that in the tool, and I'll show you exactly how you do. You'll be able to report any training activities you've done, webinars, these sort of things. You'll be able to report any outreach and communication activities you've done, so that could be reports, or it could be communication events and communication campaigns, side events you've done at any major conferences. You can report production of knowledge and technical tools. So some of you as trust fund projects are specifically focused on developing technical tools like apps and these sort of things, and you can report that here. If you're involved in any policy development, you can report it here. If you're working on implementing any monitoring and reporting within your project, you can report this here. If you're working with education, so this is particularly relevant to the SAE projects, sustainable lifestyles and education projects. You can report your activity there. Changes in practice, as we talked about before, this could be eco-labeling, it could be changes to production practices, and so on. I don't think necessarily commitments will be very relevant to you because this is very high level. Coordination on SCP is related to coordination mechanisms, so if you have any involvement in coordination mechanisms, you can report this here. And the use of SCP knowledge and technical tools is related to the production of the tools, so that will be answered within the same section of the reporting tool. The impacts at this point in time are just a tracking exercise. We're not expecting you to provide any specific data on these, but we are expecting you to indicate just by a tick box exercise whether your activities and your projects are contributing to any of these impacts. As I mentioned before, this whole framework is built around the SDGs, and as you can see here at an impact level, we're covering 15 out of the 17 SDGs, and this has been the part of the scientific basis for developing all of the indicators, both at output, outcome, and impact level. And if you want, you can go into, as I mentioned, the full methodology and see exactly how the SDGs relate and corresponds directly to these different types of indicators and activities. Last year, we did pilot report, or in the beginning of 2017, we did pilot reporting on 2016 data. And this is what we get out of the reporting as sort of at an aggregated level. So we'll be able to see a little bit more about what's happening globally on SCP, and this will help in coordinating efforts. It will help in the allocation of funds, the planning of activities, the focus that the different programs have, what type of activities do we want to start implementing, because we see that there's a lack of implementation within these areas, within the field of SCP, within the 10YSP network. So that's what the reporting can be used for, more sort of internally among all of the partners. And as I mentioned before, what we also use this for is for communication purposes. So this is really your chance to highlight your projects and your activities, especially in light of the high-level political forum for sustainable development, which is the main forum that the 10YSP reports to every year. This year, SDG 12, or the coming year, SDG 12, which is the SDG specifically focused on sustainable consumption and production, is going to be reviewed, which means we're going to be able to present a lot of information, a lot of best practices, a lot of possibly trust fund projects at the high-level political forum. So this is really your opportunity to highlight why we should, focus on communicating your projects. What are the successes you've had? What are the best practices that you've been able to develop and implement within your projects? So now I'm going to go into the reporting system. There will be a Q&A section at the end, but feel free to raise your hand at any time if you need me to stop or go back or something is unclear. So the reporting system itself is on the SCP Clearinghouse, which I think most of you are familiar with, but we'll go through it and I'll show you step by step how you report. As you can see here, your reporting, as I mentioned, will help in demonstrating progress and showing accountability. It will help improve performance, as I mentioned before. It will also allow us to identify within the different programs and within the trust fund projects which are the best practices that we want to replicate and scale up further within the 10YSP network, providing further financial support, providing further technical support, and developing these projects further because they're best practices within SCP. As I mentioned before, SCP 12 is up for review this year. Very important, high-level political forum. This is the year that we can really showcase sustainable consumption and production. In addition, this year, in particular, this reporting will also feed into the 10YSP midterm review. So the 10YSP, as by its name, is a 10-year framework. We're 5 years in. We're reviewing the whole structure of the 10YSP. How well are we functioning? what changes needs to be made, and that will go into the strategy 2018 and 2022. Some of you may have already responded to a midterm review survey, so that's part of your contribution to the new strategy, but also your reporting on your activities will help us understand better what we need to focus on in the 10YSP over the next 5 years. The reporting itself, so the reporting tool was launched on October 17th. You should have all received a launch email on this, but we will, after this meeting, resend you all the information so that you know how to report and you have all the guides that we've created for you, all the video guidance, all the frequently asked questions and all of this. The reporting will end on January 15th, 2018, so that means you need to have reported all your activities by January 15th. Now we'll go into the technical side and I'll show you exactly how you use the tool. It's quite straightforward. First of all, if you have already an account on the clearinghouse, this is obviously going to be a bit easier for you, but it's also very simple to create an account. I hope you can all see my screen here. I'm on the FTP clearinghouse. You click on My FTP to be able to log in, and you can see here you will put your login information if you're already a member of the clearinghouse. If you're not a member yet, you have to create your account. It's very important here that you, as a trust fund actor, indicate that yes, you do have a role in the 10YSP, and you indicate which program your trust fund project falls under. If you've created an account further back and you did not indicate this, please contact Julia directly, and she will be able to give you that role so that you can see the reporting. I'll just go, we're borrowing today an account from one of our members here from the trust fund. So Andrea, I don't know if you're on the call. I don't think she is, but thank you to Andrea for letting us borrow her account. As you can see here, I'm just gonna move some things out of the way for me here. This is what you get to when you log into your MySCP on the clearinghouse. So as I showed you before, you click MySCP and you log in with your login information or create your account. This is what you'll see. This is your MySCP side, and your reporting will take place in here. So as you can see, there's a reporting button up here, but there's also a 10YSP reporting button down here. Both of these buttons will take you to exactly the same page, where you'll be able to report all your activities. So now I clicked on 10YSP reporting. If I go down, I can see here that Andrea has already uploaded her trust fund project to the clearinghouse, and she has done this herself. And in some of your cases, it will have been your coordination desk in the program that has uploaded the trust fund project for you prior to today. If this is the case, you need to contact your coordination desk and Julia to have access to report. They will do that by adding you as an author, and then this will show up in a similar way on your reporting page. So once you're able to see this, once you've contacted your coordination desk, ensures that you're an author, you'll see this and you'll be able to report. So you click Report an Activity, and this will take you to the form that you need to fill out. And we ask you to please read the introduction in the beginning. This has some guidance for you to help you out with your process. It has some technical tips. It has the information about where to find contact information in case you need any help. The Tell Us About Yourself section, as you can see, will already be mostly filled out for you. That is the system that allows us to do this. In case of the group that you belong to, you'll have to answer this. In your cases, you will be a partner of the 10YSP program. So you click Partner of the 10YSP program. You click Next. Here we have to scroll up a little bit. Now you can see I'm reporting already on my trust fund project. So in this case, it's the Sustainable Consumption Platform. I can choose what I wish to report on. So as you can see, these correspond to the indicators that we were looking at before. So these are the types of activities we talked about that you can report on. In the case of the trust fund project, we ask you to first report your trust fund project as an SCP project, because you have your initiative, and that is essentially You have your trust fund project, and that's essentially your umbrella for the activities, but this needs to be reported as well. So you report an FCP project. It will tell you down here exactly what that means in terms of what you can report here. You'll put the activity title. In case of an FCP project, the title would be the title of your trust fund project, so similar to the title you have up here. You indicate what program you fall under. So for some of you, that will be consumer information or sustainable lifestyles. You indicate whether your 10YFP trust fund project has a relevance to any of the other 10YFP programs. For activity attribution, specifically for the trust funds, it's always a core activity because it's funded through the 10YFP. And as you can see, then we get a question whether or not this activity is part of the trust fund project, and the answer here will be yes. For the activity details, each type of activity will have some activity-specific information. That will always be around 2 to 4 questions. There will be some questions, about 4 or 5 questions on the implementation. So this is about who led the implementation, who were the actors involved, what type of actors were involved in your implementation, was it local authority, civil society, UN organization, etc. Then there's a question on funding and budget. So particularly for when you report your trust fund project as an SCP project, we ask you to put in the full project budget plus the co-financing and in-kind contributions. And you put that in right here. When you report on the singular activities under your project afterwards, which I'll show you in a bit, you don't have to necessarily put in a budget. In that case, it is more of an optional thing, but here we ask you to please do put in your project budgets because it is funded through the NYSP. Then there's some questions on scope and location. So you're asked about sectors, you're asked about the scope. So what is the scope of your activity, and then the specific locations for the implementation. And by clicking the regions here, you'll be able to see a list of countries that you can then choose from. As I mentioned earlier, impacts are being captured very broadly this year. So what you can do is you can report your activity impact simply by clicking as a tagging exercise, which is the multiple choice. And if you want to provide any additional information, there's a box for you to do so. At the end, there's a narrative report. So basically at the end, you'll be able to write a little bit more in your own words about the objectives of the programs, what are the accomplishments, what were you proud of that have happened within your programs, are there any challenges you've overcome or that you're facing within your programs, and this will help us in identifying where are the best practices, where are the trust fund projects that need additional support and things like that. This is what you can highlight here. There's also an option for you to link to any URL websites or tools that are online or attach any information that you would like to attach. So if we go up again, I want to show you 2 more options that you have for reporting. So as I mentioned, because you're a trust fund project, we ask you to please report first your trust fund project as an SCP project. So you fill out the form, you click submit, you go in through the process again. As I showed you, you go to your My SCP. I can show you here again. You go to your My SCP, you go to your reporting button, and you click report another activity. So now you've reported your SCP project, you go and you can then report any of the specific activities you've done over the year. So if you've done any training, if you've done any communication and outreach activities, such as campaigns or social media activity, newsletters, you can put that in there. If you've created any apps or tools or created any guidelines, this would be reported under production and use of SCP knowledge resources and technical tools. As you can see, when you hover over here, you'll get a short description, and if you click, as I showed before, you'll get the full description down here as well. One last thing that you can do, as I mentioned before, this year, impacts are more of a tagging exercise. However, if you wish to do so, and if you are capturing impacts at the level of your trust fund project, you are able to report this in a more detailed manner by clicking impact of the initiative. And down here, you'll be able to see a little bit more options in terms of telling us about what kind of impact your specific trust fund project has. This is an optional thing to share. It's up to you. If you already have some information that you want to share on the impact, feel free to do so. This is also, again, an opportunity to further highlight your trust fund project as a best practice example. The more information, the more activities we have registered under you, the more we know about what's going on and can get in touch with you about further fleshing out opportunities for communicating your trust fund project more and giving it more visibility, basically. Once you submit at the end, so when you go all the way down, let me just click SCP project here again. Once you've answered all your questions, you go down and you click submit. When clicking submit, you'll get to a thank you page that will show you quickly what you've reported on, and then you'll receive an email. And the email will tell you what you've reported, what the further process will be. So there will be some quality assurance done by the programs and some quality assurance done by the Secretariat before the full analysis and before we start communicating your activities out. In the email, you'll also be able to go back and edit any of the activities that you've done. So your confirmation email will contain an edit link to take you directly back to your submission, back to your activity, so you can edit any information until January 15th. Then that option will be closed off. And you'll only be able to edit anything if you get in direct contact with Yulia or with your program after January 15th. But up until then, you can edit everything yourself. If you lose the edit link, you can get in touch with Yulia. She can get the editing for you. In the email, will also be a PDF version of what you've submitted, so you can log that for future reference for yourself or use it for reporting to other entities. I want to show you in the bottom here of the tool, every time at any page of the tool, at any time you're using the tool, in the bottom here you'll be able to see some support functions. So there will be a help section, and if you click on that, it will take you directly to the contact information, everyone who you can contact to get help along your process. There's a step-by-step guide to reporting, which will show you screenshots of how to get through. So basically everything I went through now, just in paper format. And there's also the indicators of success methodology that I mentioned before, the longer document. On the first page with the introduction, you also have an introduction video. It's about 6 minutes, really quick to take you through the process of what I just went through again. The step-by-step guide, as I mentioned, and there's also a longer online training session recorded previously that's about 1 hour. This current session is also being recorded and will be shared with you later on as well. We have now gone through the indicators of success and the tool, and I'll be happy to take any questions for the remaining time that we have. So any questions that you have related to the indicators, related to the reporting within the tool itself, or any concerns that you have in relation to how to report on your trust fund project, we would be happy to answer any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand at any point, or write me in the chat directly. I don't see any raised hands. I hope everyone has been able to hear me this whole time. I'm sure you have. I just want to highlight once again that this is really your opportunity to increase the visibility of your trust fund project. This is your opportunity to showcase what you're doing, highlight yourself as best practice examples, show the activities that you're doing as being a part of a greater network that helps each other collaborate further, replicate and scale up activities, and really, help drive the change within sustainable consumption and production. And as I mentioned before, the showcasing this year, especially at the high-level political forum in New York, there's a lot of high-level political decision makers there. All of the countries, governments will be present. This is the review of SDG 12 and sustainable consumption and production. There will be particular focus on what is happening within the 10YSP, as the 10YSP is the custodian within UNEP directly on the SDG 12.1. So there will be a big focus this year on what is happening within the 10YSP, and obviously because the 10YSP Trust Funds is such a core part of what the 10YSP is doing, it's really important for us to be able to showcase what you're all doing and showcase that the impact that you're having on the ground, the activities you're doing on the ground will make a difference within sustainable consumption and production. So we have a question here from Dylan. How is this different from Annex 3, 4, and 5 interim and final reporting templates? So I'll have Julia answer this question as she knows a little bit more about the trust fund processes.
Yes, hello everyone. So the annexes, that's more the reporting that you're legally obliged to do because you're under contract with UNEP. That's the requirement from the procedural side of UNEP legal agreement. And this is done every half a year, and this is just basically for you to show us that you are going ahead with the promised project activities and you're spending the funds the way you have planned to spend them. So this is purely on that side, and the reporting that Foxtrot just described is quite different. So yeah, I don't know if any more explanation is needed, or that's clear. Okay, I take it as a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Yes, that's clear. Any other questions or concerns that you wish to raise? Keep in mind that you can also, if you don't feel comfortable speaking on the webinar and asking your questions, you can always email Julia straight afterwards by responding to the email she sent out. If you have any questions or follow-ups that you will think about afterwards as well. Want to wait 30 seconds to see if they're ready? Yes.
While we're waiting for some people to come up with their questions, I think tell us that the recording and the question that Dylan made is very valid. You can do is the information that you usually put in your progress reports is basically similar information that you would be inputting in the indicators framework. So it can be sort of a copy-paste exercise because it's basically the same kind of information, just to help you.
But as Cecilia mentioned, one is your legal requirements due to the funds you've received, and another one is your contribution to the 10YSP as a network and your ability to increase your visibility. We have a question here. When you say coordination desk, do you mean the co-leads for the MAC who will enable uploading of the trust fund project details? So yes, the coordination desk within the 10YSP is the co-leads of the program, or the co-leads of the MAC. So if your sustainable lifestyles and education program, in that case, it would be your Swedish co-leads, for instance. And in some cases, as I mentioned when we went through the tool, in some cases, the coordination desk have uploaded onto the clearinghouse your 10YSP trust fund projects for you. If they've done this, to be able to report your activities, which obviously we want you to report your activities. You're the ones who knows what you've been doing over the year. You're the ones who knows what impact your activities have had and what challenges you've had and what you want to highlight as best practices. So to be able to report that, you will have to get in contact with Julia or the co-leads of your program to have them add you as reporting authors to your trust fund project in the clearinghouse. So yes, that is correct. Get in contact with your coordination desk if you did not yourself upload your trust fund project to the clearinghouse database. I hope that's clear. Let me know if any clarifications are needed. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hands or unmute yourself. There's one here. Are there content limitations on the reporting template? There is a limitation in terms of so I'm assuming you are referring to the narrative section. So if I show you again in the tool here, let me just go in so I can go down and show you. Because the tool will indicate to you how much you can write. So here you see for your objectives, for the main goal of your activity, you have a maximum of 500 words. For the accomplished and expected achievements, you have a maximum also of 500 words. So your challenges, these sort of things. But as I mentioned before, you also have the opportunity to attach attachments. So that could, for instance, be if you have further reports or accomplishments on your activity or your project that you want to highlight, you can attach that right here. So that basically means that if your attachment here has no limitations. There you can put in as many as you want. You can put in up to 10 files if you wish to do so. But there is a 500 word limit on your objectives and your expected achieved accomplishments in the narrative report section. We have another question. Will we be able to get a summary of the report, separate downloadable documents once we've completed reporting? Yes. So as I mentioned before, you'll receive a confirmation email once you have completed your submission. So for every activity you report, you will receive a separate confirmation email. That email will contain a downloadable PDF attachment. And that PDF attachment will have the complete reporting for that specific activity, and you can compile that together if you wish to do so, and you can use that to copy-paste into other reporting requirements that you have. I hope that is clear. I hope those two questions were clear. We have another question, please. Is it possible for us to get a summary of this meeting? This meeting, as I mentioned, is being recorded. It will be uploaded and shared with you after the meeting. Julia will write, I think, a few notes as well and send out a follow-up email to you with all the guidance material that I mentioned that we have, so the videos and the Word document or PDF document guidance. So you'll have everything that you need afterwards as well to go back in case there's something that you were unsure about for this meeting. And you can always contact your co-leads of your programs or Julia directly or me directly. My information is in the bottom down here as well for the Need Help section. If you have any questions during your reporting as well. We're always here to help. We want to make this as easy as possible for you. We know that the word reporting is always a little bit scary, but we're trying to make this as easy and as user-friendly for you as possible. We don't want to overburden you. So please do reach out if you have any questions at any point until January 15th or after January 15th as well. Any other questions? Feel free to write in the chat or raise your hands or unmute yourself. You want to call it? Yeah. I don't see any more questions coming in. I think we will end this session here. As I mentioned, please do feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you may have or that comes up later on. Thank you all for being here and listening in. I look forward a lot to reading your reporting and seeing what activities you've been doing over the year. I just want to add one thing that I forgot to mention earlier as well. I don't know if you've seen, but this year Julia has published a trust fund report of the progress of the trust fund. The data that you submit or the activities that you submit within this reporting will also be included in that version for next year. So just to add another opportunity for visibility, and that's a report that's directly shared with donors as well. Just to keep that in mind. Thank you everyone for participating, and I hope you have a good day, and I wish you all happy reporting. Bye.